What's happening, Deer Park Honors History students? This is Mr. Moore again explaining the AP World History rubric, right? How the document-based essay rubric. As you get older, I mentioned this in class, but as you get in the upper levels of history, writing becomes such a big element of the class, right? And so my job is to get you all prepared to take AP history classes in the future. Next year will be AP US history, where document-based essays is a major element, right? And the rubric over here talks about how you gain points. Essentially, it's a 7-point scale, and you gain points by putting specific things in your essay. So it is similar to an essay that you've written in an English class, right, where you have to have a thesis, you have to have support, but it is specific to a history class. So as you can see, they break it down into several categories. Number one, a thesis, contextualization, okay, where you can get 1 point for each one of those. Evidence is the biggest element, where you can gain up to 3 points. And then analysis and reasoning, you can gain up to 2 points. All told, 7 points. If you are getting 7 points on this essay, there is a very good chance that you will pass the AP history test and get that college credit, which is, essentially free money, right? If you pass this AP class, you get credit for your history class, and you won't have to take those classes in college, which is a very helpful thing if you're trying to save money or time or whatever it is when you get to college. So here's a breakdown of these elements, right? I'm doing this for the African DBQ, not DBD, but DBQ essay. And it's set up much like an essay, where you have an introduction, a couple body paragraphs, and then a conclusion. In the intro, you got to have 2 main elements. The first thing is context, right? Context is so important. I like to describe it as the backstory, right? Or the lead up, or the origin story of your essay. What happened beforehand? So write 3, 4, 5 sentences about what was happening beforehand. For instance, in this essay about the effects of imperialism in Africa, tell me what imperialism is. Tell me what happened beforehand, right? Remember, you might want to mention something about, hey, the Industrial Revolution that occurred, Europeans were looking for raw materials, looking for markets for their goods. They were also looking for nationalist conquest to show that their country was better than other countries, right? Just give me some context, and lead those contexts, if you do enough of that, into your thesis. And your thesis in the case of this essay is based on the prompt. The prompt being, analyze the effects of imperialism on Africa. So you got to answer that question, right? And if I were writing the answer, or I was writing my thesis, I would say something like this. After Europeans settled there, they had a major effect on Africa. Overall, the effects of imperialism in Africa were mostly blank, mostly negative, mostly positive, evenly split between positive and negative, because whatever reasons you want to say. If I were writing it, I would say mostly negative towards the African people, because they're going to lose lands, they're going to lose lives, and they're going to perhaps feel disrespected. Again, I'm laying out my reasoning right there in my thesis. Okay, in order to get credit for that, you have to say and answer the question with some reasoning, with some context about how you're going to answer the question. So doing that properly, 2 points, 2 out of 7, just by writing 1 paragraph. Now, as far as the body paragraphs come along, that's where your evidence comes on. I know in history classes you've written persuasive essays, right? In the case of a history document-based essay, you're getting most of your evidence from those documents. You're getting the evidence from those sources that were already given to you. You don't have to search for them. You don't have to, do a whole research-based thing. The evidence was right there for you, right? If you guys look at the documents, right, that's that part right there. That's where those documents come from. All right, hold on one second as this is loading up. But I'm going to click on what I'm talking about. All right, so where'd it go? Right here. All right. And by looking at the documents, this is where your evidence comes from, right? You might quote from source one. When the whites came to our country, they had the land, we had the Bible. Now we have the Bible and they have the land. You may want to quote from that or paraphrase that. Same thing with source 2 or source 3, right? Now, source 3 is a picture, so obviously you can't quote from a picture, but you can say something about in source 3, it shows native Africans being used to work in diamond mines. Now, you could talk about it as a positive. Hey, they're providing employment for these individuals, right? Or you might want to say it's a negative. Hey, they're using the African people to do the hard work so Europeans can take the resources, right? You're quoting from those documents. If you quote or mention 3 documents properly, right, understanding them properly, you can get a point. If you do that for 6 documents, you can get 2 points. So if I were you, I would try to get the 2 points, right? So you might want to mention 2 documents in 1 paragraph. That way you'd only have to write 3 body paragraphs. 3 times 2 is 6. You're addressing them all. All right, so you might want to have 2 paragraphs talking about negative things and maybe 1 paragraph talk about positive things. Well, although most of it was negative, Europeans did bring education. All right, they did bring railroads, as mentioned in so-and-so document. Right? By doing just that, by correctly identifying 6 documents, you can get 2 points. So there you go. If you do all that, that's 4 out of 7. Now, outside information. When you do this on the AP history test, you won't have the access to the internet or your notes or video clips. You'd have to do it on your own. But for our purposes, you've got basically any resource you want. Mention stuff that you read about in your textbook, page 666 to 683 in your textbook. You can find information. I posted several videos on Schoology. You can get that. There's one, I'll show you right here. This one, The Scramble for Africa, gives you plenty of good information about what happens in Africa. Okay, you can mention from that document. We took notes on it in class. Do a Google search on the internet. Okay, the internet would probably be the last on my list because you can get lost in all that information. But add some outside information. Mention something that was not quoted in the documents, such as the Berlin Conference of 1884, 1885, the Zulu War, whatever. Find something that is not stated in the documents, and boom, there's your points. All right, that's 5 out of 7. Gaining the next point is while you are quoting the docs, mention the point of view. Okay, you might say, hey, in these documents, it's the African side of the story. And if you read what the Africans are saying, they are mostly negative because they feel like the British or the French, the Europeans are disrespecting them. They feel like they're taking their resources. They feel like they're taking control of their government. Okay. The British side or the European side they are saying mostly positives, but obviously they're biased because they are going to talk about how they're doing good things. Again, you're mentioning the point of view, right? When you guys do the assignment part, that's the chart, right? This whole first column, hold on one second as it comes up here. This whole column, you guys are already mentioning the point of view. If it's written by an African author, well, they are going to have a different perspective than a European author, right? If it's a neutral perspective, it doesn't really have a side. Well, you could say, although this is a neutral perspective, it might, it does show the effects being more of a negative towards the Africans, something like that. Last but not, and if you do that for 3 documents, you're good to go. Okay, get that extra point. That would be a 6 out of 7. Now, the final point, I would probably do this in a conclusion as a way to connect it to something else. This is the last and sometimes the hardest thing to do is to connect one part of history to something else. But for this essay, I think it's pretty easy. We talked about imperialism in India. Easy thing to do. You might want to say, hey, India was once independent, but the British the French and other Europeans tried to take over India. When they took over India, they took the resources from the Indians, much like they did in Africa. Say something about that. Or, hey, in Africa, there was the Zulu War where the Zulus were trying to fight back against the British. In India, there was the Sepoy Rebellion where the Sepoys tried to fight back against the British. There's an easy comparison, right? Or if you want to do it to a different time period, they call this new imperialism. But if you go back in history, we kind of did this already back when the Europeans settled the Americas. When the British and French and the Spanish all arrived in the New World, there were native people. And what did they do to those native people? They took their land. They disrespected their culture. They, in some cases, brought disease there, right? And devastated those populations and took over the land and controlled the land and influenced it. And all those things that you learned about in American history class last year or, in elementary school. Again, follow these steps, help yourself out, finish this essay early, okay? Finish it a couple days early and submit it to me so I can help you out and give you some pointers and tips on how to get the best possible grade on this, kind of one of our last major assignments of this semester. Other than that, have a great day. And please, please, please send me messages if you need help. Talk to you later. Bye.